IVM.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Positively Unlimited podcast. We're living through some very, very strange times. And for many of us, it's intensifying some of our most basic emotions. Well, in today's episode, I'm talking about O for overreact. There are some of us who react impulsively or not. There are some of us who respond consciously or then at least with some amount of comprehension. But then there are a bunch of us who are constantly overreacting to many things that happen in our day. Now, is overreaction just a bad habit? Is it a reflex reaction? Or then is something else going on within us that is making us react so strongly towards something that otherwise merits a very, very mild response? But how can you figure this out? The only way is O for observe. You have to observe yourself, not just in terms of how you are reacting or responding, but also in terms of what is happening within you. What is going on within you, in your mind and in your body, in your emotional state? Which action is triggering what inside of you? Because your overreaction is a response to everything that is happening internally. I did speak about this in episode 111 on mindfulness, the episode that came out 2 weeks ago. I hope you've listened to it. If not, you want to go back to it and listen to it again. Maybe even follow some of the tips that I have shared in that episode. Why? Because it's important to understand what is going on inside of you in order to change what you are doing on the outside. Sometimes we overreact because it's a reflex, because of things that we have experienced in the past consistently and constantly. Sometimes we overreact because it's just a bad habit. It's how we have learned to communicate since childhood. Maybe because it's how we saw one parent or someone older to us responding to many situations constantly and consistently. And sometimes it comes from very intense emotions like deep fear, feeling extremely stuck, even a sense of entitlement, or the unwillingness to take on any responsibility. All of these can make us overreact. So step one is to observe. Observe your own self so that you can understand whether your overreactions are just a bad habit or then there is something that is happening within you, whether there's a wound that is being scratched that needs to heal. Step two is to create or develop conscious responses. Yes, you have to identify how you would like to respond to these specific situations where you are overreacting beforehand. Now, if you want some help in that, you want to listen to episode number 99, where I speak about responding appropriately. All of us are often reacting instead of responding. And when you learn to respond, it can change the way you are communicating. It can change the outcome of what you are communicating for. And it can also heal many relationships. It can change the way someone else is behaving towards you as well. So episode number 99, Respond Appropriately, is what you want to listen to. You also want to listen to that in reference to today's episode, because whether you are reacting impulsively or whether you are overreacting, in both cases, the solution is to respond appropriately. So step one is to observe yourself. Step two is to identify, develop, create appropriate responses. Step three is to practice these responses. Now, what do you need to practice these responses? You need presence of mind. You need to be able to catch yourself when you are reacting or overreacting, to stop and to immediately flow into the practiced response that you have chosen. So step one, observe. Step two, create a new response. And step three, practice this response using presence of mind. Now, if your overreaction is a bad habit, you want to understand what is the new habit you want to build. Some of us may figure out where and why we learned this, but honestly, when it's a habit, the where and the why is not as important. It may be interesting, but it's not really important. You can change a habit without knowing the root of it many times. For those of us for whom this is not just a bad habit, but a response to an emotional trigger, well, you want to understand what are these emotions. For instance, if you are overreacting when you feel stuck, when someone says something to you that makes you feel like, oh my God, I'm going to get stuck here. Or, oh my God, I don't have choices. Or, oh my God, I have no freedom. If you find yourself overreacting to these triggers, you want to first ask yourself if this is even valid. If you are actually feeling this way because you don't know how to communicate, and it has nothing to do with this other person who is saying certain things to you. Maybe this emotional trigger was created within you because when growing up, your parents were very strict and you found yourself constantly fighting or rebelling to do something that you wanted. And today, because of that conditioning or that habit being built, if anyone in your life, whether it's a colleague, a boss, a partner, a friend, says something to you that you are not okay doing or not comfortable with, you jump into a reaction which is very similar to what you would do with your parents when growing up. Now, if this is what you're doing, then you need to understand that these are two different situations. They are not related. They are not linked. The person talking to you is not your parent. And thirdly, you were a child then, you are an adult now. You can communicate what is making you uncomfortable. You can say no in many different ways. You don't have to do something you don't want to do. Now, if you are wondering how to be more assertive, if that is the response, the new habit that you want to build to counter overreaction, listen to episode number 28, where I talk about being assertive instead of being argumentative. You can also listen to episode number 13 about making conscious choices, where I talk about saying no in a better way. Overreaction is, well, kind of normal in our current situations because we're all feeling extreme amounts of fear. The uncertainty is getting to us. The boredom of being stuck in our houses is getting to us. The inability to meet people and connect with different people and have conversations face to face is getting to us. However, overreaction does not help us resolve anything. It only intensifies what we are feeling. It only makes everything worse. So honestly, overreaction is not a solution. It is in fact a bigger problem. What you honestly want to do is step one, identify the situations and the people with which you are overreacting. Step two, figure out what is the new response you need to be practicing so that you can respond appropriately. And step three, practice responding appropriately in that new manner using presence of mind. You will realize that after a few times of responding appropriately, after a few times of stopping yourself from overreacting, catching yourself in time and changing your response, you are actually breathing that much more easily in that situation. And you will also realize that, it isn't so bad after all. Oh, I'm not really stuck after all. Oh, this situation is really not that harmful to me after all. These are all the things that will strike you if you can switch overreaction to responding appropriately. Also remember this. Do not get stuck in the why, because many a times the why is interesting. Why am I like this? When did I learn this? Where did this come from? The answer to these questions can be interesting, but they may not necessarily help you change the behavior. In order for you to change the past, you have to stand in the present and you have to look forward into the future. So it isn't about where you learned this or when you learned it or who taught you this. It is more about what you want to do from here on. Who do you want to be from here on? So as I said, it's about standing in the present and looking forward into the future. So don't chase the why. Just observe, create the new response, and practice it. Overreaction is never the solution. So on that note, I'm going to head out from here. But I hope that you've been listening to all the episodes of the Positively Unlimited podcast. If you have a specific situation and you are wondering which episodes will help you, because that's a question I get very often in my DMs on my Instagram, I have been creating a new series of videos on my IGTV called Positively Unlimited. So far, there is a video on feeling lost and finding a sense of direction. And in that, I've spoken about the episodes from this podcast that you can listen to in order to find or get a sense of direction, to calm that uncertainty within you, and to, understand where exactly you are standing in your life right now and where do you go from here. And the second video that I have done in that series talks about moving on from a heartbreak. So if you want to know which episodes can help you in these two situations, head on to my Instagram. My handle is Positivity Angel. And on my IGTV, look for Positively Unlimited. That's what the video series is called. As for all the previous episodes, as well as the episodes I mentioned in those videos, you can listen to them on the IVM Podcast app as well as website. Also, do connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is IVM Podcasts. And I will catch you again next Monday.
I hope you enjoyed that show. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Paytm Money and Intel. So, been a really exciting week on the network this week. We've had some really cool stuff. My old friend Vivek Lad was on Storytellers and Storysellers. Definitely do check that out. On Cyrus Said, we had Ashwin Sanghi on Thursday's episode, and Cyrus and myself did a cock and bull, just the two of us. That was fun as well on Monday. Do check that out. Masaba was on Advertising is Dead, which was another really, really strong episode from Varun. And on the sports front, both Edges and Sledges, Football Shitball had some really fun episodes. That's the Football Twaddle. Do check those out as well. And if you haven't been paying attention and you haven't been listening to Smile India in these times, I don't know why you aren't. It's the most uplifting show that you could listen to. It's a short, bite-sized piece of really positive things that happen in India. Do definitely check that out. And with that, we hope to see you again next week.
Beta, did you know 79% of all scientists in NASA are Indian only?
देखो, इंडिया में टैक्स सिर्फ मिडिल क्लास भरती है. Everyone is just enjoying free यार.
आजकल के youngsters are only interested in partying and enjoying. उनको देश की पड़ी ही नहीं है.
बेटा तुम बस शादी कर लो, उसके बाद तो you can enjoy life like anything.
I will tell you what this country needs. This country needs 15 years of dictatorship. That is the only way to become a superpower. See the Chinese, how much they've progressed.
सुनो, तुमने ये WhatsApp forward देखा?
So what's common between all of these statements?
They're all absolutely rubbish.
Fake WhatsApp forwards that spread like wildfire.
And statements that defy any logic.
We are here to debunk them all.
We're your family WhatsApp group's worst nightmare. We're what happens when you read a book.
Basically, we're just a bunch of guys who want to cut through the bullshit of everyone saying this, how it won't be true.
So that the next time someone confidently squeezes out some WhatsApp or Twitter BS, you can look them dead in the eye and go, Uncle, please sit.
So join me, Joel,
and me, Tushar,
every Mondays for a fresh new episode of Uncle, Please Sit.